On this episode of the Bowser Journal, we're going to add grow beds to our aquaponics so we can grow duckweed and some cucumbers. It's already so hot that I got a ring of sweat around my hat, and it's only 11 o'clock in the morning. So come with us and watch us sweat as we build this out. It's so much that we might even have to do it in a couple videos. I don't know yet. I foresee some pool time this afternoon. What we have here are two cut up IBC toads, actually from the same IBC. A friend of mine gave this to us. We cut it in half specifically for this use. 2 years later, we're finally getting around to doing it. No, I'm not a procrastinator. I'm not really. So we got these two new grow beds. We got to level them up with the other one and then plumb everything in. Whoa! It's a good thing I have on my boots because I just dropped the cinder block on my toes. These have steel toes. Roll King, $12. It's always good to have an extra set of boots that you can walk around in the goat pen and the chicken pen that you can easily slip off when you go in the house. You don't want to be walking through the house with goat and chicken poop on the bottom of your feet because you can get that stuff in your carpet and make the inside of your house nasty.
It's so hot, the dogs won't even venture away from their water bowl.
First thing we got to do is make sure the other grow beds are in a straight line and they're also level all the way across. Water is self-leveling. If one's higher or lower than the other, it's not going to pour water in the other. So we're going to use this and a string level to do all that. Now we need to make sure that the string, I've got it in a straight line with the grow bed, now I need to make sure that it's level.
We're using a string level to test it.
It's too high. One down, one to go. Before we continue, you probably noticed a change of clothes. It's not a different day, it's the same day. We went swimming. And I didn't feel like putting on the sweaty clothes back on, so we got a different set of clothes. So now we're gonna do the plumbing. I'm gonna run a 2-inch pipe from between all three of these. So I'm gonna have it come out of the first pump, come in and dump in high, have a low one come out, come back in, dump in high on this one, and then put the pump back here and make a connection back to the first pump. Let's finish adding the two beds to the aquaponics. This project took about 3 or 4 days, a couple hours each day at night after work, but it's finished. So we now have 2 extra grow beds that we can put stuff in. We had to first level the ground, put cinder blocks down, put the beds on, make sure they were all level at the same spot going all the way across, and then we had to plumb everything. I had more problems with plumbing than I did with anything else. And I'm good with PVC plumbing, it's just this one was a challenge. I'll explain why in a minute. So now we have tripled our growing bed. This is going to help us expand our growing and also help the fish as well. The way the system works is the water comes out of the fish tank, goes into the first grow bed. That's the one that came with the system when we bought it. And when we bought the system, they told us we could add up to 6 more of these totes. So then I plumbed from that first grow bed down low to the second grow bed, but I make sure it came in high on the grow bed. And then I have another PVC pipe coming out low on the second grow bed, going to the third grow bed coming in high. That what it does is, as it puts the water in, it puts the water in at the top and it causes a swirl, and then the output's on the other side down low. So that way it helps the sediments give a chance to follow or to sink. The problem I ran into was we came across this time what's called, we didn't use Schedule 40 PVC, we used thinner wall PVC because for gravity fed systems. Mostly because the fittings and everything are cheaper. Now fittings usually only like $1 or $2 a piece, but we were buying 2-inch. Bubby, come here. Come here. Lay down, Klutz. Lay down. We were buying 2-inch T's, 2-inch 90s, 2-inch 45s. When you get into that size, the fittings cost a good bit. So with the Schedule 40 stuff, when I'm doing with the aquaponics or the duckaponics, I rarely glue them together. That way I can tear them apart and do maintenance on them. I found with this system, because it's 2 inches and there's a lot of water, and I use the gravity fed stuff, they didn't want to stay together. So we end up having to glue them together. One of the changes I did to the system was I went to a 1,000-gallon-an-hour pump to move the water faster. Because of that, and because what happens is, as water goes through filters and stuff like that, and the filters start to get dirty, they slow down the filtration, the water speed. So I built in a overflow system, so if the water gets too high on the fish bed, there's 2 pipes that kind of come together, join into one, and then they dump any excess water back into the 3rd grow bed. So that way, if it starts to slow down or ebbs and flows, all that water still goes into the 3rd bed and we don't lose any water. That's one of the hardest things to understand about aquaponics system, is working out the water flow, because if you have it pumping it faster than it can go through the system, you're going to have those kinds of issues.
We had 2 main reasons for setting up this aquaponics system. The first was so we can grow duckweed for our ducks and our fish. And the second, we saw a video, I can't remember the guy, I know his first name is Leon, where he grew cucumbers in a 55-gallon drum. Well, we have 55-gallon drums, but we already had an aquaponics system, so we decided to try it in here. What we did was put cucumber plants in a pot with the roots sticking out so that the roots are down into the water. Right now we're just letting the roots grow a little bit, but as they get longer, those roots will actually go down to the bottom of the tank, and when they do, we plan on setting this up. We just have a piece of tile here in the tank on top of some concrete blocks, cinder blocks. So what we plan on doing is setting this up, putting bricks underneath to set this up so that the roots get a little bit of air. That way they're getting air and they're getting nutrients from the water. And hopefully it works. It's an experiment. We'll let you know how it goes. Nico? I know his were beautiful. They poured completely out of a 55-gallon drum, and he got an awesome crop from them. So I'm hoping to be able to put up a whole bunch of pickles this year. When we first put these plants in, the roots were probably about this tall. They were maybe an inch down on the bottom, and you can see all this new growth that we've had in about 4 or 5 days. The plants, at first, they kind of wilted a little bit, which, if you can see, we were trying some melons in here too. They were kind of wilted like this and looking really poorly, but they've all bounced back. We haven't lost any yet, so that's a good sign. One thing Chuck has started doing is trying to root our own avocado trees. He'll probably do a video about that later, but as you can see, they love the aquaponics system. We have moved them out since they're almost ready to transplant now. We moved them out into the sun so that they can harden off. One advantage of growing all of this in a tank, in a closed aquaponics system, is that all of the plants help to clean the water. So they take all of the nutrients from the fish poop and turn it into oxygen that goes back, and clean water that goes back to the fish. Another advantage that we're hoping is true, that's why we're doing this experiment, we live in Central Florida. It's very hot, very humid, and sometimes even when you water, it's very difficult to grow some plants. So we're hoping that the constant ability of these plants to be able to constantly get water and nutrients is going to help them thrive.
Make sure you watch our future videos to follow our successes, but more likely our failures, so you can learn from our mistakes. So until then, live your own story.